Okay, well, here's a new equation. We haven't seen this before. And here's where taking the common factor becomes relevant. Okay, what you want to do to graph this is it's part of completing the square. What you want to do is first thing you want to do is remove that 3. So we got to say y equals, take out the 3. What are we left with? By the way, we're only going to take it out of these two. Okay, what are we left with? We're left with x squared minus 4x. And we're just going to keep this minus 1 on the outside of this 3. So the 3 is not acting on the minus 1. We've kind of separated it out here. Okay, so what's our next step? Take that y equals 3. Put that minus 1 out there. And what I want here is kind of a perfect square. Okay, whatever's in this bracket, we need a perfect square there. Okay, but there's a small trick to it. So how do I make this a perfect square? I have x squared minus 4x. I have to add and then subtract the same thing. Basically, I have to add 0. But what do I have to add and subtract? And as we learned earlier in our previous examples, was that you take this middle term, minus 4, divided by 2, and square it. That gives us minus 2 squared, which gives us 4. So we got to basically add 4 and subtract 4. So essentially, when we look at this, we didn't do anything. We just added 0. We added 4, subtracted 4. So our graph is essentially the same. So what do we do next? Well, it turns out that we don't want this entire thing. We don't want all of it. We want just part of it. What becomes important is this. But how do I remove this minus 4 out of the bracket? I can't just remove it out of the bracket. So how do I remove it out of the bracket? Well, y equals, it's being multiplied by 3. To get it out of the bracket, x squared minus 4x plus 4. I can't just write minus 4. Because to get it out of the bracket, I need to multiply it by 3. So 4 times 3, or minus 4 times 3 we'll bring it outside the bracket, right? How do I get it outside the bracket? This just means it's 3 times x squared, 3 times minus 4x, 3 times 4. But I want to take the minus 4, so I have to multiply it by 3. And then this minus 1, nothing's happening to it. I can just bring it out there. Okay, our next step. Our next step is, that's a perfect square, right? That's x minus 2 squared. It's multiplied by 3. I have minus 12. And I have a minus 1. Y equals. And then finally, we'll just bring these two values together. Y equals 3 times x minus 2 squared minus 13. So now I have something to graph. Where am I going to move this? Let's just move it to that side. I wonder if I can make this smaller. No, I can't make it smaller. Anyway, let's graph it. It's minus 13. It moves down. Oops. Minus 13 points. And then I go to that side too. It's my vertex. Oh, and my step pattern. That's right. I have a step pattern now. It changes. So instead of 1, 3, 5, it's multiplied by 3. It's 3, 9, 15. So my first step is 3. 1, 1, 2, 3, 1, 9. Oops, up here. Let's erase that. And my next point is 15. My next step is 15 up. 1, almost to 15. And I know it's symmetric because I have, so that goes out 1, this goes out 2, this goes out 3, and we can draw our parabola. 1, 2, all the way up. Whoops. Close enough. All right, so this is actually equal to y equals 3x squared minus 12x minus 1. And how did we graph it? By completing the square all over down there. And that's our general rule of how to do it.